Well, after my Bloodborne review, I want to review a game that is more on the slightly complex side. So let me take you back to the 1980s, where Square was a struggling company pretty much, trying to make good games for the NES. We all know the game that basically put Square on the spot. This is my review of Final Fantasy. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new review. Today's subject is going to be the original Final Fantasy. Before we get into the review, I should note that I'm using the PPSSPP emulator for this review since my PSP has a broken screen and I also don't have any way on capturing PSP footage since the 20th anniversary game is going to be the one that I'm using for this review. Final Fantasy is a fantasy turn-based JRPG developed by Square and originally released back in 1987 for the NES, but it later got re-released for the PlayStation 1 under Final Fantasy Origins, then to the GBA under Dawn of Souls, then mobile devices, and the one that most people say is the best, the PSP 20th anniversary game, which is the one I'll be using for this review. Alright, so the story. Before we actually start the game, we can name our heroes. So, welcome, Blum, Shade, Goat, and SMP. So, if you were to play the PSP version, we get told that basically, the elements are fucked, the earth itself is fucked as a result of said fuckery, and it's up to the heroes to fuck up the villain's plan before he could do any more of the fucking of shit. But, before we do so, we do the cliche of saving the princess of Cornelia from the game's villain, that is Garland, and this is what his sprite looks like in the PSP version, and this is him in the original. Choose which one is more threatening looking down in the comments below. But anyways, we beat Garland and return to Princess, and it's here where we set on our quest to restore the crystals, each of which represent the 4 elements. And in order to restore them, we have to slay the 4 fiends. After doing so, we then return to the Temple of Fiends, or Chaos Shrine, where we originally went to, and go 2,000 years into the past, where it is discovered that the fiends sent Garland, who is now the archdemon Chaos, and he sent the fiends into the future to do so, thus creating a time loop by which he could live forever. But we defeat Chaos, thus ending the paradox and return home. But by ending the paradox, the Light Warriors have changed the future to one where their heroic deeds remain unknown outside of legend, thus ending Final Fantasy. So that was the plot of Final Fantasy. To me, this is by far the most basic Final Fantasy plot in the entire series. The villain of Garland / Chaos is honestly legendary, mostly due to them being the first villains in the entire franchise. Just like how the Warrior of Light is legendary for being the very first protagonist in the entire franchise. But, with the story out of the way, let's talk about gameplay. Gameplay of Final Fantasy is your standard turn-based RPG. We walk around the overworld and we have random encounters. Each class has their own specialty. Some obviously have their preferences, like having the Warrior, Thief, White, and Black Mage, or you can roll with the Warrior, Red, White, and Black Mages. The Warrior is clearly the tank here, strongest attacks, and can take hits. Thief, well, it helps when it comes from running away. The mages basically have their traits in their names. White mages can cast healing magic, and black mages can cast offense magic, and red mages can not only do both white and black magic, but can also have strength almost on par with the thief and even the warrior. Now you see, the thing that most people don't enjoy about Final Fantasy's gameplay is that you can basically mash attack and win. But assuming you were to play the original NES game, you can't exactly do that. What do I mean exactly? Well, assume you were to have 3 out of the 4 party members attack one monster, with the 4th attacking a different monster. Your first 2 take out the first monster, but when it's time for the 3rd to attack, they don't attack the next monster, they just swing their weapon at thin air. So if you were to play the original NES version, you can't just mash attack and win. So overall, the gameplay is pretty damn great. Sure, the random encounters could get repetitive and annoying, especially if you were to get an encounter after taking a single step, but like I said, gameplay is still great. Visually, in terms of the PSP 20th anniversary game, I absolutely love it. It may be a port of the GBA Dawn of Souls version just with a higher resolution, but that doesn't change the fact I love how this game looks, on top of a smooth 60 FPS. And in terms of OST for the PSP version, it may not have been done by Nobu Uematsu, but Tsuyoshi Sekiro did an amazing job with this remake's OST. My favorites have gotta be the battle and victory themes, as well as the title theme. So let's recap. The story is pretty good for the first Final Fantasy. Gameplay is also pretty good. Visually, it's amazing, and the OST is simply wonderful. Here are my closing thoughts. Overall, I enjoyed the original Final Fantasy. After starting with 7 and with my first beaten Final Fantasy game being 15, I say I had a wonderful time exploring the franchise's beginnings. If you have to play the original, then download the PPSSPP emulator and play the PSP version. Not only does it have all the good stuff I mentioned, but also bonus super bosses that even surpasses Chaos in terms of difficulty. Overall, Final Fantasy, at least the 20th anniversary remake, gets a 9.5 out of 10. If the encounter rate weren't so high in the overworld and just tweaked just a tiny bit, this would be an amazing remake of the game that basically pulled Square out of bankruptcy. But now, I want to know from you all, did you play the original Final Fantasy? If so, which version did you play? And is this something you could recommend to a friend? Leave your answers and more down in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and while you're here, consider subscribing and turn on the bell to be notified when I make a new video. As always, my social media links are down below. I've been Hover Kid, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bury the light deep within.